If you like horror, hit that notification bell, smash that like button, and push that subscribe button now.
What's the boogeyman?
Hello, Sydney. Welcome to my nightmare. We want the man who did this.
Welcome to Nick Push's Horror Channel.
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D review. I'm excited. Actually, hold on. There's something wrong with the stream. It looks like I can fix it as soon as... Let me just see here. As soon as I get this rod pointed perfectly at the camera. There we go. God damn, that music is so good. Man, that is catchy. Fuck it. Let's play it again. Oh, sorry. Hey. Fuck, guys. That music is just so catchy. It's just a product of Friday the 13th, Part 3. And that's why I love it. So hey, what's up everybody? I'm Nick Push. Thanks for tuning in to talk some Friday the 13th Part 3D. Full disclosure, guys, I just gotta say something about this movie before we get into it. I fucking love this movie. I always have, and I kind of always will. Is it perfect? Fuck no. But man, I got a lot of nostalgia for it. This is actually the first Friday movie I've ever seen. Second horror movie I've ever seen. When I was 6 years old, I saw this movie at neighbor's house, the Franzes, Corey Franz, Kevin Franz. How you guys doing? They kind of introduced me into horror, and I saw Dream Warriors, and next I saw Friday the 13th Part 3. I don't know why I was with Part 3s at the time, but yeah, that's kind of my introduction into horror, and then obviously got into Halloween after that, and you know, it was over after that. But yeah, I am a big fan of this movie. Like I said, it's got a lot of faults, but for me, there's just so much nostalgia with it that I have a lot of fun with it. And even rewatching last night, watched it and I saw the faults, and I didn't really care because it just brought me back to you know, being a kid and watching this movie and watching this franchise. So I really enjoyed it. And what seems to be happening, before we get into the characters and other categories, but what seems to be happening as I do kind of my retrospective or rewatch on this franchise, whatever you want to call it, is so far, the movies that I like, which is, you know, especially the first four, the movies that I like, when I watch them again, I'm liking them even more. So I'm going to be curious with the movies that I don't like. Cough, cough, you know, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, all that stuff. I'm curious if I'm going to dislike them more. So time will tell. But yeah, this is a fun sequel, guys. Before we get to the characters and stuff, we got Adam Howard in the chat, Diamond Rattler, James Morant. How's it going, guys? Adam says, I got my peanuts, my donuts, and my fish food. I'm ready to go. Yes, Harold and his fish food. What's up, Diamond? James says, fun sequel, and the movie has some continuity problems. Yes, it sure does. Specifically, probably the most blatant continuity problem is just the look of Jason. You know, and we'll get into it in a minute here, but he goes from mountain man in overalls, who probably has, you know, my body type, you know, tall, lanky, and skinny, to having the most badass traps like Bill Goldberg in the world. But like I said, I can look past a lot of that stuff, you know, just because of nostalgia for me. You know, if this movie came out now and we're dissecting certain things, I'd probably have a lot of issues, especially with the pacing, especially in the middle of the movie, because there's just a big lag between, specifically the opening scene at the convenience store with Harold and is it Edna? I think it's Edna. To the biker gang. There's just a lot of lag. But once this movie gets going, holy fuck, does it get going, guys? Let's get right off the bat, guys. No more beating around the bush. You know me. I got nothing to bullshit about. I just want to talk about the characters right away, and then let's get into the categories. Before I do that, Shape of Heart podcast just showed up. Bud, what is up, man? How's it going tonight? All right, let's talk about the characters here. I think I got all of the main ones on screen, obviously besides Jason. But let's just talk about him a little bit, because I don't think this movie has the best characters in the franchise. I'd probably say that's part 4, followed by part 2, and then maybe even part 5. But the characters in this they're all relatively memorable and decent. So let's go. Is it left to right? I can't tell if you guys are seeing the same screen I am, but let's go left to right. Right next to me, we got the biker gang. You got Fox, who's a good, fun character. Ali is next to her. He's a good character that, speaking of problems, well, the fact that he, comes out of nowhere at the end is a little bit of an issue, but that's okay. He saves the day, essentially. Next to him, I don't even know his name. He's just the guy that barks and has a cigarette in his mouth the whole time. I don't even know his name. All right, let's continue up top. Next to him, we have Chili and Chuck, the two Cheech and Chong stoner characters. Obviously, like I said, a ripoff of Cheech and Chong. I have no evidence of this, but I heard the guy that played Chuck in this, I heard that he was like in his mid to early 20s while this movie was being filmed, and I don't fucking believe it. I tried looking yesterday, and granted I didn't look very hard, but he looks like he's 40 years old, so why is he fucking hanging out with these kids? I have no fucking clue at all. But Chuck and Chili, they're okay characters. Mark Mack, what's up, Mark? Says Loco is his name. That's right. Thank you. Chili might have a scene later on towards the end of this movie, right before her death, that might be, and this is saying something here, it might be one of the worst acted scenes in the franchise. But once again, it's hokey, it's fun, oh, Shelly's dead, like, oh my god, it's ridiculous. But it's Friday the 13th part 3. Like I said, I'm going to ignore a lot of the faults of this movie because of my nostalgia towards it. Next to Chuck, we have Shelly. Maybe Shelly might be, other than if you're not talking about Jason and you're not talking about Final Girls, and you ask someone to name a character in the Friday the 13th franchise, would most people say Shelly? You think Shelly would win that? I think he probably would. Obviously, he's responsible for Jason having the hockey mask in this franchise, which obviously is another big part of this movie besides the 3D. So yeah, Shelly, great character. He's kind of fucking mopey and annoying and a downer, but he's a good character. And Larry Zerner, continues to give franchise updates. Obviously he's a lawyer now, for those of you that don't know. I think most people know that. But he's kept everyone appraised on the Friday the 13th legality issues and things like that. So shout out to Larry Zerner, you're the man. Next to Shelly, we have Vera, Shelly's quote-unquote date. We're going to be talking about Vera in a little bit, so I'm not going to go too much into her. And then down at the bottom, below the bikers, we got Rick. I have no fucking clue how old Rick is. He's a country boy. He could be 40, he could be 30, he could be 27. I have no fucking clue. I hope he's 27 because I'm guessing Chris is in her, very early 20s in this movie. Chris is the final girl who's next to Rick. As far as final girls go in this franchise, she's towards the top in my opinion. I wouldn't put her in Ginny's class at all, but she's pretty good. And her final chase scene with Jason, which we're really going to be talking about, is awesome. So I think Chris does a good job in this, minus one little backstory scene, which we'll touch on as well. And then next to her, we have Andy, who, he's memorable because he walks on his hands. He's got my favorite death in the entire franchise, where Jason splits him. he's walking on his hands, and Jason takes a machete and splits him in half from, his fucking nuts on down, which is just crazy. And then next to him we have Debbie, who essentially she is known now. This actress is known because she became a newscaster and was a very big part of the O.J. Simpson trial, which is pretty cool. So that is our cast of characters. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat, and then let's get to our categories here. So Adam Howard says they gave Shelley a little bit of character development, and we got an extra 3-piece because of it. Yes, we did. James says not the best characters in the franchise, but you can still watch them. Yeah, I agree completely. They're definitely not the best, but I'd put them probably in the upper tier, or at least the upper middle tier. They're memorable. I'll give them that. Adam says Rick looks oldest to me. That guy is 35. Yeah, I agree that he just looks old. James says he was 27. The actor. Wow. It's interesting. Guys in the 70s and early 80s, I feel like they looked older, or maybe it's just because I'm older now and I don't like to think that I look old. Probably do, but I just think guys, back then they looked older for some reason. So yeah, I'll buy he was 27. Bud says he was 47. I believe that too, to be honest with you. No idea. Carlos Sandoval. Hey Carlos, how you doing? Says the survivor looks like my 2nd grade teacher. Oh, that's cool. That is cool. All right, let's get these people off the screen here, and then let's talk about our categories here. So as usual, we're starting off with the MVP of the movie. My MVP of this movie, and it's another easy choice for MVP, just like it was last week for Friday 2. My MVP of this movie is Richard fucking Brooker. Goddamn. So, Richard Brooker plays Jason Voorhees, the first version of Jason with a hockey mask, obviously. He is my favorite Jason in the entire franchise. It's unfortunate, that he was only in this one movie, even though we got a great Jason in the next movie as well, and Ted White. But I love Richard Brooker in this role. Not only, is he very menacing, but he gives Jason a personality without saying a word, which is extremely hard to do. And I know Kane Hodder kind of gave him a little bit of a personality, if you count, just heavy breathing. But Brooker does it subtly, which is extremely difficult to do. There are so many scenes here, and we're going to break a couple of them down specifically, but there's so many scenes where he just, gives, turns his head, or he just walks gracefully, and you can really, you can see his personality shining. Brooker was a trapeze artist, so that kind of gave him a little grace on screen, and you can see that in his performance. I buy that he was a trapeze artist, besides the fact that, his size here just ballooned from the previous movie. So Richard Brooker is 100%, it's not even a contest for me, my favorite Jason Voorhees of all time. And we'll kind of see, a few scenes that showcase that as we go on here. So, do you guys, any MVPs for you guys of this movie? Let's see. James Moran says, I look great. Thank you, James. I appreciate it, buddy. You're lying, but I appreciate the sentiment. James says, Richard Brooker, definitely, he was scary and he likes to mess with you. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about in a scene early on. Like, he enjoys, you can tell he's enjoying himself, and we're really going to talk about that because it makes me so excited. That's the scene that we're talking about. Bud says Richard Brooker is amazing. Yep, absolutely fucking agree. Like, I just can't say enough about him in this movie. It's unfortunate that he died, I think, it was 10 years ago. I think it was 2013. I know he's a heavy smoker. From things I heard about on the set, he was always just had like a big cigar in his mouth and shit like that, and he was always drinking. So he was a badass, he's just a badass guy on set too, which is pretty cool. Alright, Allie's in the chat. What's up, Allie? Happy Monday. Mark says when he drops that dart gun, he looked badass. Oh yeah, he did. Oh yeah, and that's a specific scene we are definitely going to be talking about. James says he had the shoulder pads to make him look bigger. Yeah, I believe it. He's got those traps. Like I said, he's like Bill Goldberg, man. It's just crazy. It's funny what they ask us to believe in between parts 1 and 2 where Jason's all of a sudden alive, and then in parts 2 and 3 where he goes from, mountain man, hillbilly with hair, to this bald guy that's huge and ripped. But, we can overlook it because it's fun. All right, let's get to the LVP. Let's get Mr. Brooker off the screen there. My LVP is the 3D decision maker. Hear me out. Hear me out on this, guys. Okay? So, the images I'm showing on screen, we're going to go from left to right, and I'll just tell you what they are. I'll pretend you guys are blind, apparently. But I don't have a problem with these little 3D gags at all. I think they're fun. I think if you're going to do a 3D movie, especially a horror movie, especially in the early 80s, you got to have gags like this, You got the title sequence coming out at you. You got Harold with the pole coming at the camera. Edna, I think her name is, with the antenna, the baseball bat. Chili passing a joint to what looks like the audience. Abel with the eyeball. Shelly throwing his wallet at the camera. Andy and his goddamn yo-yo. And then the biker gang, the couple of like the pitchfork and stuff like that coming at us. The juggling and popcorn scenes. And then some scenes at the end, with Richard Brooker taking the fire poker right at the camera. Obviously, the most famous 3D scene is Rick's eyeball flying at the camera, which can kind of look ridiculous. And then the books flying at us, which I didn't realize that was actually a 3D gag, but I guess it is. And then Jason obviously reaching at the camera at the end. I do not mind any of these, I'm calling them gags, right? Any of these 3D gags. But the decision to make this in 3D, I have two things. It basically created two problems for me. First and foremost, because they had to make it 3D, or because they were making it 3D, they had to move from the Northeast all the way out to California and make a man-made lake and all that shit. And it really affected, the feeling of the movie for me. Like, it took away the ambiance of a Camp Crystal Lake. The first one was filmed in New Jersey, I believe. Second one was filmed in Vermont, I believe. And, you buy that you're, at Crystal Lake in those movies. This one does not feel like you're at Crystal Lake at all. So that's my first problem with the 3D. My second problem is because, like I said, because of the 3D, you had two things going on here as well. You had the director and everyone on set focused on all the 3D elements, so the actors weren't given any directions. This movie is not acted well at all, and that's saying something for a Friday movie. Okay, it stands out to me in the franchise as one of the poorly acted movies. Okay, but the main thing is with the 3D technology at the time, there are so many scenes where it's just kind of lit up with like a Christmas tree. So it kind of takes away a little bit of the suspense and darkness of that we got in the first two movies in the woods, where you just see a flashlight or you just see a character in the dark. They couldn't really do that in this movie. And it took away a lot of the tension scenes and a lot of the creepiness factor. They made up for it in other ways. I will give them that, especially, just with Richard Brooker's performance and things like that. But I just come back to, if this was filmed in the Northeast and they're able to have things at night where it's darker and whatever's going to be on camera isn't lit up like a Christmas tree, I feel like the movie would have been a lot better. But that being said, guys, because this is Friday the 13th part 3D and there's all these wacky things flying at the camera, it's got a certain charm to it that I can still appreciate. But for me, ultimately, I think the 3D decision ended up hurting the movie more than helping it. So that is my LVP. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat. Shape of Horror Podcast says LVP is Rick, probably the most useless guy in the franchise. Yeah, he's pretty useless in this. He's just kind of bugging Chris about her being a little closed off to him, listening to her ridiculous story towards the end, and then he goes back with her, goes outside, and the next time we see him, Jason's squeezing his eyeball out. So yeah, I won't argue with Rick being the LVP. Jason Lore, hey Jason, how you doing, man? Says I love parts 1 through 4. Dude, me too. They are my Friday the 13th. When it comes to watching any movies in the franchise, I'll always go to 1 through 4. Jason continues, says part 2 is in Connecticut. Okay, Connecticut. Thank you for correcting me there. I knew it was Vermont or Connecticut or something like that. But yeah, that has a feel to it in the Northeast. Allie says, my LVP is the biker gang. They were kind of just added in there. Yeah, I think the biker gang was fun, but I will agree with you, Allie, that they just kind of, they were added in there. You know, they needed, they had a big leg between the scene at the beginning in the shop with Harold and Edna. I hope her name's Edna because I keep calling her Edna. But they had they had a big lag between that and, you know, the next kill in the movie. So, you know, the biker gang was in there, and that gave us some kills in between. Obviously, they had to play a part in the climax because they siphoned the gas from Chris's van, and that played a part in her being trapped there. James Morant, LVP, definitely the relationship between Chris and Rick just didn't work. Yeah, I agree. It didn't work for me at all either. Especially like if Rick is a lot older and Chris hadn't been there in 2 years, then how old was she? You know, there's some questions there. There's some questions there for Rick. So yeah, I agree. Shape of Horror podcast says, I can only take so many cold showers. Yeah, he literally says that like at the beginning when they've only been talking for just a couple minutes. It's a little bit pushy and ridiculous. Scott's MVP was the pot in this movie. Yeah, dude, with Chuck and Chili, there's a lot of pot in this movie. Chris Fantazzi, what's up, Chris? Says, what up, Nick? All right, let's get to the best scene here, guys. Now, for me, best scene and best Jason moment can kind of flip-flop for me. Same with worst scene and dumbest moment. So there's enough where I just kind of picked. But for me, the best scene is, and I'm cheating here, and I'm going to play part of it in a minute, but the best scene is the entire final chase. I've said it before. I think I made a video on like my favorite chase scenes in horror history, right? Like when I first started this channel like 4 or 5 years ago. I made a video on that, and number 1 is the final chase between Chris and Jason. So let's move this down. Let's get to best scene. All right, I'm gonna play a clip of the very end of this chase, okay? Before I do that, because I'm only gonna play like the last like 2 minutes of it, or last like, you know, minute or so of it, something like that. But just to set it up, you know, when Chris and Rick get back, you know, Rick squeezes Chris's eye out. You know, a great scene of Chris standing there, yelling, "Rick, everything all right?" And Jason is holding, you know, Rick covering his mouth, you know, just outside of her vision. So creepy. And then, you know, Rick gets thrown through the window. Jason has this awesome scene where he comes through the window, and it is on. And this chase scene goes forever. You know, Chris runs up the stairs and dumps books on Jason. Yeah, like dumps a bookshelf on Jason, and a bunch of hardcover books fall on him. It's funny because it knocks him down, and that wouldn't even, you know, register at all in the later sequels. But it goes there, and then Chris goes in the closet. She's hiding in the closet, and there's a great scene of Jason, you know, pounding on the closet door. And then he takes the axe to the closet, and Chris takes a knife and starts swinging at Jason after stabbing him in the hand, stabs him in the knee. Jason throws a knife at Chris, just barely misses her, and she climbs out the window, and Jason's, you know, pulling at her to get her in, and her like members only jacket kind of rips, and then she knocks Jason out with a log, runs to the car. You know, Jason dives out of the way, and then like I said, the van runs out of gas, and then you get Jason grabbing her through the window. She rolls up the window in like one turn. Literally, it's like 1 or 2 turns, and then Jason has to like smash his mask through the window, and then Chris has to run to the barn. And as she's running to the barn, you can see Jason in the background chasing after her. Remember, Jason runs in these first 3 appearances of his in 2, 3, and 4. He's running, and then there's a great scene where Chris is hanging from the rafter in the barn after Jason comes in, right? And Jason is just destroying this fucking barn. He is flipping shit all over. He is destroying this barn. He is pissed off that she got away from him. And that's what I mean about the personality that Booker shows in Jason this movie. It is cool. But anyway, Chris falls down, knocks Jason, and then she goes up and, you know, essentially knocks Jason over the head with a shovel, and then literally hangs him. Okay, and we're going to pick up from there. She hangs him. So he is hanging from the barn, hanging from a noose, and she hangs him. All right, we're gonna bring up this scene, and we're gonna play like the last like minute and a half of this scene here, because Chris thinks she defeated Jason. Okay, and once again, I'm gonna have to have to pause every once in a while just so YouTube doesn't shut my ass down. But let's play it here. All right, let's see. All right, here we go. Look at that, right away. He's just kind of standing there, and he wasn't standing there when she walked down. Oh, that's so good. Look at him snarl at her when she's like, "It's you," because we're gonna talk about that in a second. But he like snarls at her. That's more of the personality I'm talking about that Brooker shows. Man, and I love Manfredini's score here kicking in. So good. Let's continue. Look at, she's lost her fucking mind at this point. You know, she has done everything to this guy, and he just keeps coming. Oh, that's so good. Look at it. He's just walking in. He's won here. He's won, right? She's just giving in. And then look at the mystery man, Ali, about to come in. Let's see what happens here. First of all, how is he alive after the beating he took from Jason? And then look at chop his fucking hand off. Oh. Great crap. He's not gonna be alive after this. Okay, look at this. Look at the axe. Here's a little bit of a mistake. A little bit of a mistake. So look at the X. It's right on the hay right there on the ground. And now she's picking it up from something else. It's funny. So it's definitely not where it was, but I think it's just a mistake. But I love the score is kind of epically picking up here, and we're about to get the climax. He is making sure Ali does not. Okay, we're about to get something that's gonna live in the franchise forever, and that is gonna be the axe mark. So make sure Ali is dead this time. Boom! Look at that. Boom. Now, I want to say, and I could be wrong, I want to say the axe mark has changed places in a couple different movies. It definitely is on the wrong side in Friday the 13th Part 4 poster, I believe. Look at this, he's still coming. She can't believe it. Shooting right at the camera. She's just gonna kick it, make sure it's dead. And there it is. Like, that is just the culmination of my favorite scene. Like I said, it's the whole chase scene, which is kind of cheating. But for me, that is my favorite scene in this movie. Or I think that's the best scene in this movie. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the best Jason moment. Could be my favorite scene too. We're going to talk about that later. And I think I've seen a few people mention it in the chat here. But let's see what you guys got going on here. Jason Lore says, I love this movie with all its faults. So much fun. And the birth of the hockey mask. Yeah, this movie does have a lot of faults. Like I said, I can overlook it because of my nostalgia and because, you know, Brooker, and there's just so much good, especially when it comes to Jason. James Moran says the fight between Chris and Jason in the barn, one of the best. Absolutely agree. Just talking about that. Chris Fantazi, not to be confused with Chris Higgins in this movie, says I like the barn scene. Yep. Shape of Horror Podcast says best scene is the first time we see that iconic hockey mask on Jason. You think they know they entered the zeitgeist forever when they shot it? First of all, I can't argue with that. We're going to be talking about that scene towards the end here. And I don't think they knew that. I don't think they know what they had when they shot it. But they certainly did, you know, shortly after that. Let's see what else got going on here. Allie says revealing the hockey mask is my favorite scene. Yep, I 100% will not argue with that. And James says awesome moment. Jason was like, you remember me? Yeah, dude, he literally was like he remembered her at that scene. He was just fucking with her. Chris Fantazi says, a good friend in the ICU. Please pray. I'm sorry to hear that, Chris. Definitely in my thoughts. Your friend is, and you are as well. That's tough on all accounts, man. Definitely wishing your friend the best along with yourself. Please know your friend is in my thoughts, man. Seriously. Super Tenor says, I love the theme song. Hey guys. Hey Super Tenor, how you doing? Yeah, I had to play the theme song twice at the beginning of this, or part of it twice at the beginning of this, because I love it too. It just gets me in the mood for this movie. Alright. I'm not going to play as many scenes this week, guys, because I know they can kind of drag the stream a little bit. But we do have 2 more. One of them's going to be really quick. But, alright. So that's my best scene. Let's get to the worst scene. Worst scene. I can't even remember what I picked for this one. Yeah. Worst scene and dumbest moment are another one that can go hand in hand. But for me, it's the ending jump scare. This was fucking stupid. So Chris has a vision at the end of this movie, where Jason is coming at her with his mask off. That part's actually really cool. But after that, you get Mrs. Voorhees, head attached and all, jumping out of the lake and pulling Chris under. Lame. Obviously, we know what they're going for. Callback to the original. But if Jason jumping out of the lake made no sense, what the fuck is this? I mean, Jesus Christ. Unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. And I'm glad after this they kind of ditched a lot of like the little dream sequences at the end of the movie. Or at the end of these movies. Because this is bad. This is really bad. I was 6 years old. I don't even think it worked when I saw this. I don't even think it worked for me then. So yeah, very bad. Adam Howard says, Jason appearing behind Chuck is a great scene. Yeah, dude. When I was watching this movie last night, I'm telling you, that scene where Chuck is, getting the power, turns it on, and Jason's standing there out of nowhere. That scene is fantastic. I am so disappointed that I can't put that on here because there's so many great Jason moments. I will not argue with that scene at all because that scene is great. In fact, I remember, getting back to when I'm 6 years old, I remember seeing that scene as a kid, and I think that scene scared me more than any other part in this movie as a kid. It won't be my scariest scene next, but it is really fucking good. Like just the cinematography in that scene. And I know I ragged a little on the cinematography in this movie a little earlier with the 3D stuff, but in that scene, I thought it was excellent. So yeah, I'm with you. James says the flashback between Jason and Chris didn't make sense. Yeah, there's a lot of things in that didn't make sense. We're going to be talking about that. Allie agrees, says that is the worst scene and didn't make sense. Yeah, no kidding. It just lazy and lazy in my opinion. Fantazi says her head grew back. Yeah, apparently. Especially because earlier at the beginning of this movie, they do the recap of part 2 with Ginny in wearing Mrs. Voorhees' sweater, and you see her fucking head sitting there. It's ridiculous. Adam Howard says, I like the Mrs. Voorhees ending. It is better than any joke we could make about those first 2 endings. Any joke we could... Yeah, I'll give you that. I personally don't like it at all. But, like I said, the dream sequences at the end got a little old after a while. And what else you can make a case? What else could they have done? I don't know. Ditch the dream shit, which they ended up doing. But yeah, I feel like that's cool, man. Like I said, it just doesn't work for me at all. But the Jason shit right before that is fucking good, man. Really good. Okay, let's get to the scariest scene, and this is gonna be some very underrated shit here. I'm diving deep with this scary shit here. Okay, so it's not gonna be parts that a lot of people think of, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone thought of it. Who knows? But I'm diving deep. I cut a few little moments together for my scariest scene here. Let's pop it up here. My scariest scene is opening store. So Harold and Edna, like I said, I hope her name's Edna. But I'm gonna play some quick clips here, and they're just scenes from the opening of this movie in the store when Jason's going to get his new digs from the store, and they're just scenes where he is in the shadows. Okay, it's very. I hate to say it's very Halloween-y, but it kind of is, and it's not just because of the fact that there is laundry sheets, and when you think of Myers, a lot of times you can think of when Laurie sees him by the laundry sheets, but there's a lot of underrated things with him in the shadows, and it's the way it's shot. And a part of that is because he hadn't gotten the hockey mask yet, so they had to kind of save their load for the scene we're going to talk about towards the end of this stream tonight, to show Jason in the hockey mask. So they had to use some tricks of the camera, and what it did is it created a lot of tension. So like I said, this is pretty short. It's just some stuff I quickly pieced together from these opening scenes. So let's take a look here. Hold on, I gotta go back here. I wanna. Look at that. Look at that. He's hidden behind the sheets. You can see. You can see his legs. He's actually still wearing the stuff from part 2. The mountain man get up, just without the sack on his head, which is kind of cool. But there's so many parts of this where he's just you just see a shadow, or you see him standing there. He's heading over here, getting the laundry, and you look at him just standing there watching her, and she doesn't see him. That is creepy shit to me. That's stuff I really like, and I wish this franchise did a little more of it. I get why they didn't, because Jason became, a fucking rock star, especially with the hockey mask here. But yeah, it's so good. Especially the rest of you consider it. At least finished. Like it's just slowly zooming in on her. I think I've said that in all these, how it's just slowly zooming in. I must have a thing for that, but I do really like the stylistic choice there.
Good job. Everything around here.
Look at that right there. Look at that. She sees him, assumes it's Harold. Can't see his face really at all. You see kind of like the side of him and his hand, and that's just creepy shit right there.
Harold?
It's good. Look at this right here. She goes in there and you just see him. He's everywhere right now in this area. He's in the background. We see him, she doesn't. Like I said, it's Halloween-y. The parts of this, mostly just the beginning. But because the fact that they couldn't show his face because he didn't have the mask yet, it made them be creative, which I like. Obviously, as a big Halloween fan, it's something that I would enjoy, but I just think it's underrated in this movie. Look at this. Look at this. That is good shit right there. Harold's contemplating eating this fish food, and you see the shadow go back there. Just slowly move. Like, that is good shit. That is good filmmaking. Great stylistic choices. So for me, that is the scariest shit in this movie. I know it's something that, a lot of people might not mention, but for me, I really, really like that stuff. And it was kind of a cool opening. It's different than a lot of the other a lot of the other movies in the franchise in that regard. But because they couldn't show Jason very much, it forced them to make choices, and I think the choices paid off, especially as far as building tension and things. So yeah, that Halloween movie collector, Pat, is in the chat. What's up, Pat? How you doing, man? Says these scenes were very Halloween-like, with him watching and stalking. They really needed more of that in the other films. Wow, same page then, same page. Yep, I just said that. You probably typed it before I said it, but yeah, absolutely agree 100%. James Moran says Jason chopping the cardboard door with the axe. Yeah, that is a good scene. And it's funny. It is a cardboard door when he's going after Chris in the when she's in the closet with Debbie's body there. It's a good scene too. I count it as part of like the final chase, because like I said, this final chase, the final chase in this movie is just fantastic. But yeah, so that is my scariest scene in this movie. All right, let's get to Unsung Hero. For me, it's a character in this movie. And for me, it's the character of Vera. Let me pull up my answer here. It's Vera. I enjoyed this character a lot. And as far as characters in this movie go, obviously, we've talked about Jason ad nauseum so far. And, when we get to our best Jason moment, we're obviously going to be talking about him again. During the final chase scene, I talked about Chris a lot. Chris is she's one of the top final girls, in my opinion, in this franchise. She's not, like I said, she's not on Ginny's level. So we talked about her. And then at the beginning, we talked about Shelley a lot. Shelley gave Jason the mask. I think Shelley, if you're asking someone to name a character in the Friday the 13th franchise, and you say it can't be Jason, and it can't be a final girl, who are you going to name? I think most people will say Shelley. And in that, I think the character of Vera gets lost, because everyone else is kind of larger than life, right? Andy walks on his hands. Debbie was pregnant, right? We didn't talk about that throwaway line. Chuck and Chili are Cheech and Chong. Rick is Rick. And I think Vera kind of gets lost in the shuffle. I think she had some decent character development, and I really would have liked to see, if she would have given Shelley a chance. I think they did a lot of good things with her character as far as making her realistic. Shelley, I think this is actually a picture from that scene, but Shelley is, basically saying to her in this scene, I like you a lot, and, I thought maybe we could, and she literally puts her hand over his mouth and she goes, I don't think so. So you think she's just a bitch, right? Shelley calls her a bitch, actually, after she goes outside. But then she's sitting there, and Shelley does the stupid fucking prank. Shelley, who packs a wetsuit to go up north for some reason, to a cabin, comes out with the hockey mask, grabs her, and, he makes a stupid comment, pretty girls shouldn't be sitting alone. And, she yells at him, rightfully so, And, Shelley says to her, I'd rather be a jerk than be a nothing. And she's like, I never said you were a nothing. And he's like, you didn't have to say it. I see it, or something like that, right? I'm obviously paraphrasing here. But, she's got some depth to her there. And then a few moments later, which we'll be talking about soon, she's looking at Shelley's pictures in his wallet, which he either dropped or no, he gave to her earlier at the convenience store. She's looking at those pictures and smiling. So would she have given Shelley a chance? Probably not. But the way she's looking at those pictures and smiling, I think she's a good character. And I guess I'm considering her an unsung hero in this movie because she gets overlooked by all the other larger than life characters. So for me, Vera deserves more credit as a character. So yeah. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat. Let's see here. Jason Lohr says Steve Miner, the only person to direct more than one Friday the 13th film. Yeah, he directed Friday 2 and Friday 3 and Halloween H2O. So I think, right, he's the only person to direct multiple, or in each of the franchises too, in Halloween and Friday the 13th. So that's pretty cool. Miner did a good job in Friday 2 and Friday 3. Very good job. Not so much in H2O, in my opinion. But yeah, that's a whole other topic, right? Adam Howard says the ending doesn't have to be a silly dream sequence. The last shot of the movie is something really in the lake, and it's not Jason. Yeah, I agree, Adam. 100%. Shape of Horror Podcast says Vera's a fellow Texan to him. Nice. Did not know that. James Moran says Ali, he saved Chris in the barn. Yeah, dude, that's a good point. Ali would be a good one for Unsung Hero too, because he didn't have to do that. He could have got the fuck out of Dodge when he saw Jason kept coming back, but he woke up in the nick of time and ended up being the catalyst for Chris having a chance to give Jason the axe mark. Adam Howard says Rick's biggest character arc is putting a soft sweater over his rugged man flannel. That is good, man. I agree. That's good. James Moran says Shelley was a jerk. Yeah, he definitely didn't know how to go about getting people to like him, and he just wanted people to like him so bad. And I think if you're a person that a lot of people haven't liked, I think you don't really know what to do. So I think Shelley definitely 100% came off like a jerk. I don't think he was a jerk, but he was definitely acting like a jerk. So yeah, I'm with you there. That Halloween movie collector says Vera's death was the best. Loved how Richard Brooker just shoots her in the eye, drops the gun, and shuffles off. Oh yeah, man, we're gonna be talking about that in the next 5 or 6 minutes here. Alley Girl says, unsung hero for me is the designer of the hockey mask and Jason's clothing. Yeah, I will not argue with that. What's kind of sad is there's too much. All these people have just taken credit for the hockey mask, and nobody can really agree on who is the person that is responsible for it. I know like all kinds of behind the scenes stories have come out, like whether it was a costume designer, or was a big Detroit Red Wings fan, or whatever, but yeah, I agree with you that when they put the hockey mask on Jason, it changed the fucking game in this franchise, that's for sure. It changed horror forever, right? Let's see. Adam Howard says Shelley deserves some sort of accolade for surviving so long after getting cut up. Yeah, talk about another thing that doesn't make sense in this movie, which I overlook. I'll overlook that. But he gets his throat slit, and then 10 minutes pass at least, and then all of a sudden, before he shows up to Chili by the kitchen there. Yeah, I agree. James Moran says Vera was at Weekend at Bernie's. That's right. I did see that when I was looking at her IMDb page last night. All right. Funniest moment. For me, guys, this movie's not very funny. And that's not a bad thing at all. Not every horror movie has to have strokes of humor peppered throughout, like a lot of these modern movies, where, they just purposely throw things in these movies to make the audience in the theater laugh out loud. Fucking pisses me off. So for me, there's not really many funny moments. So I just chose, because I'm going to choose one for every movie, I chose Fox condoms. Now, it doesn't mean someone's sliding a condom on a fox, obviously, but that is the scene at the store where Shelley throws Vera his wallet, or throws us those wallets, as the viewers, because apparently it took 50 takes or something for Shelley to throw that wallet right. And Fox picks it up with the biker gangs there and says, "Is this your rubber?" It makes me chuckle. That's it. Like I said, it's not really a funny moment. There's not too many funny moments in for me, but that's a moment that makes me chuckle a little bit. So for me, that's my funniest moment. Adam Howard says funniest moment is when Ali smiles at Shelley and Shelley smiles back, filled with such relief. Dude, that is good too. Yes. Especially the way it's shot through the windshield. Ali has that chain over his neck, and he puts it to tell him to stop, and it goes next to the car, and just a big smile on his face. And you're right, Shelley then smiles because he's nervous, and then boom, he smashes the window. That's good. James Moran says them eating the weed in the car. Yeah. They eat the weed in the car when they hear the sirens, and it ends up being all for naught because the cops were driving right past them to I think it was to the convenience store at the time. So yeah, for me, Fox bringing up the rubber is the funniest moment for me. Allie says funniest moment is the guy popping the popcorn. Yeah, that's right. Chuck is popping the popcorn. Is he trying to catch it in his mouth? I think he's trying to catch it in his mouth or something. But he's essentially popping the popcorn for us, the viewers. I was never lucky enough to see this in 3D, but I think the popcorn's popping right at the camera there. All right, let's get the dumbest moment. Like I said, this could go hand in hand with me for worst scene, but my dumbest moment is, yeah. So, yeah. Chris and Rick are off talking, off away from everyone else. I don't know if they're a mile away or something like that. But they're talking, and Chris is explaining that throughout this movie, there's this entire backstory. Chris hasn't been back to that place in 2 years because something happened. And Debbie's reassuring her throughout the movie, and something happened. I'm not ready to go back there. I'm not ready to go back. And she says, she's seeing things. She's kind of essentially seeing Jason without seeing Jason throughout her time throughout this movie. Well, here we get the backstory of why. And 2 years ago, Rick dropped her off. Like I said, brings into all kinds of questions how old she was at the time. But I digress. Rick drops her off, and she gets in a fight with her parents. Her mom slapped her, and she runs away, and is laying next to a tree in the woods, and all of a sudden she hears something rustle or something behind her, and it's Jason without his mask, obviously, because he just got it, pretty much probably while Chris is telling this story. He got it, and she's fighting him off, right? He's got a knife, and she's telling this story. You know, she kicked a knife out of his hand. You know, he just kept coming after me. He got on top of me. And then I blacked out, and I don't remember anything. And I woke up in my bed, and my parents have never mentioned it again. There's all kinds of, I don't want to say fan theories out there, but there's all kinds of speculation. You know, did Jason rape Chris? You know, what the fuck? What the fuck is this, man? Like, how is this necessary? How is this necessary at all? So you wanted to have Chris have this, you know, backstory, how she's scared to be there because of some encounter with Jason. You know, I like the fact that Jason, like I said earlier, snarls kind of at her at the end when she's like, "It's you." But, excuse me, this is fucking stupid. It's just absolutely unnecessary and stupid. And so what, Jason let her go? If she blacked out, he let her go? He had a knife. There's just all kinds of things that don't make sense. And not to mention, he's wearing the same clothes that he got earlier that day or the night before at Harold and Edna's. So yeah, like I said, I look past a lot of things with this movie because I have a lot of nostalgia with it from being the first Friday movie I ever saw, and I love so many things about it. But this scene is something I can't look past. It's just dumb. Very, very dumb. Especially the way it's cut. Like, this picture that I'm showing right now is how this scene was shown. You know, where Chris is telling the story, and you got her kind of almost in the tree telling the story while, you know, they're playing out what she's telling. It's just dumb. So for me, like I said, it could go hand in hand with worst scene. I could flip-flop those. But for me, this is the dumbest scene in the movie. All right. Let's see. Ellie agrees with me. It's the same for her, the dumbest moment. Mark Mack says Jason taking a hostage and letting her go. Yep. Like, why did he let her go? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, just ridiculous. And James says the ending, it didn't make any sense. So yeah, I think he agrees with this is for he's jumping out of the lake. So yeah, I'm with you on that. That Halloween movie collector Pat says, I assume that's Pat, says the whole backstory was not needed. It would have been better and more shocking for her not to have seen him and just be terrified for the first time. Yeah, I agree. Like, it's like they wanted to have this plot device or something where she is on edge throughout this movie, and that's why she hasn't been back there. How is that even needed? It's just bizarre to me. So yeah, I'm with you. And James says, yeah, she blacked out, but he didn't kill her. Yeah, come on, he's a fucking killer. Like, what the fuck? We know this already. All right, we're going to get to the best Jason moment here. It's going to be another clip. So for me, guys, this is easy. It's our first look at the hockey mask. Our first look at Jason in the hockey mask, I should say, because we saw Shelly in it, obviously. I'm going to play this clip here in a second. Not only is this my favorite Jason moment in this movie, it's my favorite Jason moment in this entire fucking franchise. My favorite moment in this franchise, actually. I love this fucking moment. And let's just play it. It's like a 1.5-minute clip. We're going to start at the beginning here with Vera. And then I'm going to play it, and we might have to look at it, part of it, again, because that's how much I love it. Roy is here. Hey, Roy. So sorry I'm late. Good to see you. You should read the alternate part 3 by Michael Avallone based on an early script. Ooh, that sounds intriguing. I will definitely check that out. Thanks, Roy. All right, let's play this here. So this is what I'm talking about earlier. What I was talking about Vera earlier. She randomly remembers that she has Shelly's wallet in her back pocket, right? And starts looking at the pictures. Looks at a picture of Shelly and his mom. Look, she smiles, you know. She's pissed at Shelly. He's ugly. He's a nobody, right? But you know, this is why I like Vera. Just subtle moments like this, okay? Oh, Butterfingers.
Right.
Look at this. This is not a fucking Crystal Lake at all. You can tell this is a man-made pond. God. It's frustrating. But anyway, you know, this is almost like a nothing scene so far, okay? You think it's some type of character development. We don't even, at this point in time, Jason has been relegated to the shadows this whole movie. We've only seen, those dark images I showed earlier at Harold and Edna's, and we've just kind of seen him from, the chest down, or just kind of the side profile, just kind of like Myers in the jumpsuit at the beginning of Halloween. When Laurie drops the keys off. So let's continue. We're just gonna get the wallet in this fucking pond. And get Dini's score coming in. I'm gonna pause it for a second here so we can get the full effect of the money shot here. Taking her shoes off. Look at that. Oh my God, is that so good. This is the first time we have ever seen Jason Voorhees in the hockey mask. God, is that good. Just strolling out.
Hey, I dropped your wallet. I'm sorry. I got it.
Dude, look at that. Look at that. Just kind of half hiding behind that pole. He's got that harpoon gun. Oh my God.
Who are you? What are you doing? Hey, now cut that out right now. That's not funny.
Boom. Oh my God, is that so fucking good. We're going to watch the end of this in a second because that's my favorite part. But my God, is that good. Oh. Okay, watch this scene. Watch this part here. This is what sells me on Brooker. One of the many things, but this is my favorite moment in the entire franchise. God damn, we're going back a second because I need to just talk about this for a second. Okay, so he just shoots her, right? Watch the way he tosses this harpoon gun down. The way he just kind of nonchalantly tosses it down and then just kind of turns and walks and looks to the house with where Andy and Debbie are. Watch this. It's like Jason is having fucking fun. Vera, what he just did to Vera means nothing to him. It's just what he does. He tosses it down nonchalantly and then he is just, he's just strolling along. God damn, is that good. Like, he is just having fun. So fucking good. I can't say enough about that. Like I said, that is all subtle movements by Brooker. Like the way it's shot. I would have liked it to be a little darker, but they obviously had the 3D effect in there. But that is our first look at Jason in the hockey mask. It is horror history. Horror movies, pop culture has never been the same since that moment right there. So I just wanted to take that in a little bit because I just absolutely love it so much. That is my Jason. Okay? All right, see what you guys are talking about since I got a little giddy there. James Durant, Jason walking on the dock with the hockey mask. Badass. Fuck yeah, dude. So badass. Roy says, look at those Richard Booker traps. Those muscles were popping. Dude, for real. After Ginny cut his shoulder with the shoulder blade, or with the machete, with the machete, man, Jason hit the gym in record time, took all kinds of steroids. It's crazy. Mark Max says, that's gangsta. Dude, fuck yeah. That is just great. And then James Durant says he just dropped the gun and was on to the next. Exactly. That is exactly right. On to the next. Just nonchalant. It's just, I don't want to call it underrated because a lot of people remember that scene. But for me, it just means so much to the franchise. It means so much to the character of Jason Voorhees. And that is why I love Richard Brooker. That's why he's my favorite Jason. Could be a little biased because, like I said, it's the first first Friday movie I ever saw. But for me, I just absolutely love it. All right, let's rate this bitch, guys. For me, I'm trying to be as diplomatic and realistic when I rate these movies as I can. Like I said, I have so much nostalgia with this movie. So many things going on with this movie that I love. Is it the best in the franchise in my opinion? No, it's not. We'll get into my rankings when I'm done with this retrospective. But it's still really good. So for me, I am giving this out of 10 an 8.6. Couldn't go any higher because there are a lot of things that either haven't aged well or, you know, the lulls in the middle, the acting and shit like that isn't the best. But I still love so many things about this movie. And like I said, it's partially driven by my nostalgia for this movie. There's a lot of nostalgia I had for this movie. But for me, 8.6 is a high rating for me, okay? I try to be... not too many movies are going to beat, in this franchise, are going to beat an 8.6 for me. So that's what I got. Halloween Movie Collector says, the shuffle walk made better by the long arms of Brooker. That is a good point. That is a really good point. See, Pat's an astute guy. Look at how long Brooker's arms are in this scene. Like, very long. And it just, you know, with that, and he's got, you know, the traps and a little bit of like a hunchback in some scenes, you know, he's still kind of like a grotesque, deformed figure. And the long arms help sell that as well. So that's a good point. Mark says next was the handstand kill. Yeah, dude, the handstand kill is my favorite kill in the franchise. That is fucking brutal. I love when Andy's walking on his hands and all of a sudden, like, we as the camera see him walk out and then we see him walk back, but we see Jason standing there with the machete first and then boom, chopped in half from the fucking balls on down. Oh, just brutal. Mark Mack says he gives it a 7 out of 10. Pat from the Halloween Movie Collector an 8 out of 10. Allie an 8 out of 10. Yep, so everyone likes this movie. I think we can all agree it has plenty of faults, like all of the movies in this franchise. But for me, in this movie, the good highly outweighs the bad. And as the franchise moves along, you know, not the next movie at all, because I love the next movie as well. But as the franchise moves along, you know, that pendulum starts swinging a little bit farther in the other direction. But we'll get into that. And I don't know if I'm excited to get into that or dreading getting into those, but we're going to do it because it'll be fun to talk about. But for me, guys, like I said, Friday the 13th, Part 3, first Friday movie I ever saw. I had a lot of nostalgia watching this again last night. It had been a few years. And as I said at the beginning of the stream, as I'm going through this franchise so far, the movies that I've liked, which are the first 3 and especially the first 4, the movies that I've liked, I'm liking even more. So I'm going to be curious if the movies that I don't like, I end up disliking even more. Bud's back. Bud says he gives this 3 stars. Hopefully that's 3 out of 3, Bud. I'm kidding. No, 3 out of what, Bud? 3 out of 5? I think that's fair. James says 8.5. Little slow paced, but good fun sequel. Yeah, there's parts that drag in this movie. No doubt about it. They're memorable characters, but they don't do the best characterization. I think Vera, like I said, had some underrated characterization. Shelley gets some. Chris gets some via a stupid backstory, but her final chase is so good that I'm going to forgive it. And then the other characters are kind of, kind of cardboard cutouts, whether they're stoners or whatever. But yeah, for me, I'm a big fan of this movie. Always have been, and I think I always will be, because my nostalgia will always take over whenever I watch this movie. So that's it for Friday the 13th, Part 3, guys. Join me live next week, Monday. We're going to talk Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Final chapter has always been my favorite in the franchise for numerous reasons, so I'm excited to watch that one. Brooker's my favorite Jason. I love Ted White as well. After Brooker and White, for me, there's a steep drop-off, but we'll see upon rewatch how that goes. I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I appreciate you guys being lively in the chat. Adam Howard is chiming in here with his rating, 8.5, among the best in the franchise. Yeah, I agree. This is definitely one of the best in the franchise, by far, even though it has those slower parts that I touched on earlier. But yeah, guys, join me next week. Thank you for tuning in tonight for Friday the 13th, Part 3. I'm excited to do Friday the 13th, the final chapter next week. I will see you guys